Get started, I'd like to recognize some folks this evening and thank some folks. I'd like to recognize our leadership for the Clark County Association of Realtors, our executive committee, and they're listed up there on the screen. If there's anybody in here that is on our executive committee, could you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. I'd also like to recognize our board of directors. If there's anybody in the room on our board of directors, would you please stand? And they're listed up on the screen also. I'd like to thank and recognize the members of our Government Affairs Committee listed on the screen. If you're in the room, please stand. Be recognized. Of course, I always have to recognize our great staff. They hate it when I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Our CEO, Joanne Johnson, staff, Carrie Leader, Charlene Coles, who's not here, and of course, our Public Relations Director, Ryan Davis, over here. Thank you for being so instrumental in putting this event on tonight. Which leads me to another big thank you. I'd like to thank our sponsor this evening, Teresa Springer, with Eagle Home Mortgage. Thank you, Teresa. Stand, recognize, stand. Thank you. Tonight I would like to recognize some elected officials in the room. We have County Councilors John Blum and Mark Bolt. I think they're the only two that have, right? That's the only, and I don't see any city councilors right outside. Okay, so with that, I'd like to speak for a moment about the importance of community to the Association of Realtors. Not only on a local level, but on a state level, on a national level, the National Association of Realtors. Realtors support community, all levels. Our association is a nonpartisan organization. We focus on advocating for positions that promote the value of home ownership while working with candidates and elected officials of all stripes, both sides of the aisle, that share the goals of affordable housing and healthy communities. At this time, I would like to recognize our candidates here this evening. I'm going to start, we're going to go in order of race here, so we'll start with the mayoral race. I'd like to introduce Stephen Cox, Greg Henderson, and Ann McInerney. For Vancouver City Council position 1, Scott Campbell, Nicolette Heredis, Jacob Kerr, and David Roberts. Position number 2, Justin Forsman and Alicia Topper. Position number 3, Michelle Berkshire, Linda Glover, and Vaughn Henderson. Okay, enough of me. Let's get started. I'd like to introduce right now our moderator for the evening. He is he's our co-chair, one of our co-chairs for the Government Affairs Committee. I'd like to introduce Terry Willem.
Okay, we're going to start with introductions. We'll have 30 seconds to a minute for each candidate. We'll start out with the mayoral race. Ann, if you'd start us off, that'd be great, please. And I'll hand you a mic.
Good evening. I'm Ann McInerney Ogle. I'm a retired educator. I'm also Vancouver City Councilor since 2014, and I serve as your Mayor Pro Tem. Back in 1980, a realtor found our home for us in the Shumway Neighborhood Association. Bless her heart, Judy did a great job of helping us find a place that we could raise our son. He went to Lincoln Elementary School. We helped build parks. We built sidewalks. We wrote grants for all sorts of different things. The most exciting part about it is running for mayor for the city of Vancouver. I want a safe, prosperous, welcoming, and vibrant community. I know how to work collaboratively, build strong, trusting relationships, and it would be my honor to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Next, we will have Greg Henderson come up and speak.
Hi, I'm Greg Henderson. I moved here 24 years ago with my family, and I've called this home ever since, and I've loved this community, and I decided to get into this race because I've got some ideas, and I was really excited when I heard about this forum because I think housing is the #1 issue that's facing us in this community especially, but it's all across this country. And I think that the more voices, the more ideas we have, the more we talk and figure this out, I think we can get a more vibrant, more healthy community with 21st century jobs. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Greg. Stephen Cox will be speaking next.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I am Stephen Cox, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, retired. If you wish to be inspired, please go to my Facebook, Cox for Mayor, and you read all about me. Some interesting details there. As for my purpose here tonight, we're talking housing. I am a real estate investor myself. I have family in the industry, both mortgage brokers, real estate brokers, and real estate agents. I understand what's going on in Vancouver with housing. I understand the economics of it. And I have ideas on how to fix it. And we can't fix it all in Vancouver. It's going to take county, it's going to take state, it's going to take national levels. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Here, I'll take that. David, we will start for you for Vancouver City Council Position 1. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Roberts. I have been a long-term citizen of Clark County and Battleground, and I've recently moved to Vancouver. I've been here for about 5 years. I am a real estate photographer, so I do run my own business, and I'm aware of a lot of the challenges that are required when you are running a business, and I'm also quite aware of the housing crisis that we have going on right now, and I've got some ideas on ways to improve that. I'm also on have been in the past on several nonprofit boards, and one of my passions is small business and helping smaller businesses gain more employees. And also, I am interested in the arts. I've been involved in the arts for 15 years, and I want to be a voice for arts on our city council. And those are some of the things that I would like to do as a city councilor. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jacob, will you speak next? Thank you.
Yes, I will. My name is Jacob Kerr. Thank you everybody for showing up tonight. Got to see the other side of the heat. Wish we could dress like Jim Mueller here. Looks really relaxed. But I'm working for us because we need people that are going to advocate for people on a fixed income. We need people that are going to fight for living wage jobs, fight for small businesses, and fight to make sure we have pay-as-you-go in place, fight for housing solutions that work for everybody. So we need definitely to work with the developers and the home builders to build more low and fixed income housing. I will advocate for that as your member of state council if I win. So thank you for showing up tonight, guys.
Thank you, Jacob. Next is Nicolette.
Good evening. My name is Nicolette Heredas, and I have lived here in Vancouver for about almost 5 years, and I am so thankful to be a part of an amazing community. And thank you, CCAR, for putting this forum on tonight. I'm so excited to be here and talk to everybody, have this discussion about an issue that is facing our community and coming up with constructive, proactive ways of facing it.
And lastly, for Position 1 is Scott Campbell.
Hey there, good evening. Thanks for being here tonight. Scott Campbell, running for position number 1 for City Council. Probably the number one thing I'm asked every day is, why am I running for the City Council? And why now? And the reality is it's just a natural progression of what I've been doing for well over 30 years in this community. I started out volunteering on very small committees, trying to make this place better than the way I found it. I worked on several nonprofit boards. I work with several business leaders, the residents of our community, and just the average person. Very in tune with what goes on in our community. I visited all the small city council meetings. I visited the county council meetings for years, and it's just a natural progression. I believe after a blessing from my wife that said I could do this, I'm ready to go and work for the citizens of this community. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we'll be listening to position 2 candidates. We'll start with Alicia.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Alicia Topper. I'm a current Vancouver City Council member elected in November of 2013, and I'm running for re-election for 3 primary reasons. One, I want to help the city work to strengthen our partnerships with our nonprofit community and leverage partnerships to really move our city forward. I don't think we're doing that to the full capacity, and we lean on our nonprofit community a lot, but we're not necessarily there to support them in the ways that they need. And I know as realtors, you step up and help the community and you help nonprofits, so I'm hoping you can support me in making that happen. 2, I want to make sure we continue to put policies in place that are going to help incentivize and really move industry here to our community so we have family and living wage jobs for the younger generations to come back after college and live, work, and play here. And the 3rd thing I want to do is to make sure that Prop 1, the Affordable Housing Fund that was put into effect last November by the voters, is put into use in the most efficient, effective, and responsible way to make sure we're increasing inventory of affordable housing all across the spectrum. My mother and father-in-law are realtors, so I look forward to sharing with you some of my thoughts and answer your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Justin, you come up and speak, please.
Hi, everybody. Justin Forsman here. Some of the reasons that I got involved in politics is because I got involved in school. I got education in criminal justice, forensic science, crime scene investigation, law, constitutional scholaring, and what this taught me is that we have a lot of rights in government. And as I learned of all the rights that we do have, I realized all the rights that we really don't have anymore. And that became really important to me to want to stand up for members of our community. And I serve as Vice President of the Broken Pole Fishing Hole for Wounded Vets. It's a nonprofit fishing retreat for veterans in Woodland. Provides a tranquil spot for them. Also, and I am aware of all the people that are being foreclosed on illegally by the banks. And it's important to me to investigate that of all the people that are losing their homes. And it is also important to me about the taxes that are being increased on property owners. I'd like to see that subside somewhat. Thank you, and thank you all for being here.
Linda, if you'd speak next. Linda's running for position 3.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I'm Linda Glover, and I thank you all for being here, and I thank the Clark County Association of Realtors for putting on this forum. I began my professional career as an elementary teacher and elementary principal. When I moved here in 1995, I became involved with a nonprofit, and I serve presently as executive director of Divine Consign. I'm sure you've heard of that. Our mission is to provide resources to our community to improve the quality of life for every one of our citizens. While I have been downtown on Main Street, we're celebrating our 13th year this week. I became involved with Vancouver's Downtown Association, and I've served on their leadership team since that time. I'm very proud of the work that we've done to revitalize downtown. I checked today, we have brought $1,300,000 to downtown Vancouver for revitalization through the B&O tax credit program. What have we done with that? We've done building facade improvements. You've seen the flower baskets. We've done the art sculpture on the street. We repurposed the bus transit into Turtle Place. We've done a lot that's making downtown vibrant and vital. Why is that important to you? The strong city center, it brings in more people, it brings in jobs, and they're going to need houses. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Vaughn, thanks.
I'm Vaughn Henderson. I know I'm one of the younger ones up here. But as a 20-year-old running for office, I bring to the table a youth perspective, since youths are underrepresented and even unrepresented on the city council. I also bring 9 years of face-to-face experience with the opioid epidemic, environmental action since I was 10, and grassroots activism as 2016's youngest legislative candidate in the country. So, vote Vancouver for Vancouver.
Thank you, Vaughn. And Michelle Beardshear.
Thank you for taking the time to attend this evening. My name is Michelle Beardshear, and I'm running for Vancouver City Council Position 3. Thank you for the Clark County Association of Realtors for hosting this evening. I do apologize. I'm going to have to cut this evening short. My neighborhood association was just recently recognized from the city, and it's our first meeting tonight. I'm now the chair of that association, so I have to tuck out for that meeting. But at least the Clark County Association of Realtors and myself are on the same page of supporting our community growth and our community strengthening. A little bit about myself. I've lived in Vancouver for over 20 years. I purchased my home in 2007, and I live in Cascade Park. To this date, it's one of the most rewarding achievements I've ever taken care of, I've ever done. I'm a well-respected employee at Clark Public Utilities, and I have been for nearly 15 years. I have my bachelor's degree in business associations, and I do own a small business. I would like to, I hope everybody enjoys their evening tonight, and thank you. I do have a little bit of my information back there. I would like you to take a look at it since I do have to check out early. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. We'll actually start with position 3 on questions. So we're going to transition next into, we're going to wait to do that. So we're going to start with questions first to make sure you have enough time. So for position 3, I'm going to be asking questions to all the candidates. They're going to have an opportunity to explain their positions and on a variety of different housing-related issues facing Vancouver. We provide a list of 5 questions to the candidates yesterday to allow them time to develop their positions. We've randomly selected 2 questions per position race. Those questions at the beginning of the forum, there were some that they'll be able to address through the lightning round as well, allowing all candidates within each race to address the same questions while also providing a variety of discussions across the different races. So we'll start with the first question. The cost of purchasing a home has increased roughly 9% again over last year. How do you propose the city be involved in creating financially attainable housing opportunities for citizens of multiple income levels?
Thank you. Owning a home is the American dream, and anybody who has the ability and the want to do so should be able to take part of that American dream. With the cost to purchase a home rising 9% over the last year, I feel setting inclusionary zoning laws would allow renters who are willing and able to save to do so. It would also take critical steps forward, assuring that more affordable housing for Vancouver now and for future generations. As a Vancouver City Council member, I would consider an immediate inclusionary zoning program similar to the one that's in Portland. That policy requires developments with 20 or more units to set aside 20% of their households that make less than 80% of the median family income. Last year in 2016, that was a little over $58,000 for a family of 4. We could offset this by offering incentives and concessions to developers, including the tax waivers for the affordable units, and we increase allowed density. This is something that we're already doing to the affordable housing developers and such. So as a city council member, I would believe in inclusionary zoning laws that make affordable housing throughout the city.
Thank you, Michelle. Vaughn, we'll have you go next. Feel free, you can come forward or stand at your chair, your choice. I can restate the question for you if you like as well. The cost of purchasing a home has increased roughly 9% again over last year. How do you propose the city be involved in creating financially attainable housing opportunities for citizens of multiple income levels?
One thing that my campaign and I have been working on is looking for other cities' ideas and, and choose the best and fix what's wrong with theirs. And one we found was in Detroit. They have a program, it's called Rent to Own, and they use micro homes, and they charge only $1 per square foot. And after 7 years, people with ultra low incomes would then be able to own their home and then have the ability to sell it and move into something larger and continue the process of home ownership, even with low income. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. Linda.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think the cities, the best way they can offer them, make sure we have the supply that we need is through zoning and planning. And that's a regular cycle that goes on, making sure that there is enough residential and multifamily dwelling properties that people can those houses can be developed. I think that's an important part of it. So it's the zoning. It's also making sure the city has infrastructure in place so that development can be happening. So there is enough of the supply. The second thing I think we need to be looking at is, I think what the city has been a great leader in is allowing, providing tax abatements and waivers to help construction of new buildings for low-income people. And I've been looking around doing some studying about what are other communities doing to help out. And I found that communities that have really focused on community housing have put together programs to help funding, perhaps through a community bank, perhaps through a credit union. One I know in Montana that started out helping women get jobs. Pretty soon they were helping men and women get jobs. And then they advanced to the point of helping young families starting out homes be able to get funding to be able to buy that home. So I think it'd be good as a community to look at programs like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. We'll have you start off with the second question as well, which is, what would be your ideal project using Proposition 1 funds?
Okay. One thing that is written into that Prop 1 is the preservation of property. It's not only new and build, but also preservation. I think it's important that we expand and we provide adequate housing, but we also have wonderful neighborhoods that we need to be doing infilling on, and we have neighborhoods that we want to make sure stay of top value, so that people are able to buy homes there that are valuable homes. I think that there are families that perhaps aren't able to, they're making their mortgage, they're making their way, but they can't afford to put a new roof on, they can't afford to put fence back in place, they can't afford to paint. And so this Prop 1 will provide the funds so people can do that. We all know, if you watch city blocks, if one house starts to kind of go downhill, there's a tendency to others go along. And so I think this kind of program could help those people who really just don't have the funds to be able to keep up their homes, be able to do that.
Thank you, Linda. Vaughn, so again, the question was, what would be your ideal project using Proposition 1 funds?
My project idea would be shipping container communities located throughout the city, from West Vancouver all the way to East Vancouver, that would provide roofs over all homeless heads, very fast, they're safe, they're low cost, and currently they would cost only a quarter of any proposed homeless housing option currently available. So I think that would be my biggest project.
Thank you, Vaughn. Michelle.
Thank you for hurrying for me. Appreciate it. My ideal use of Proposition 1 funding would include an apartment complex that's dedicated to accommodation for physical disabilities. There's a company called Quad Inc. It's a nonprofit organization. They serve the disabled community. They currently have 5 facilities in the Portland area. They were organized in 1975 by a gentleman named Bud Myers, who suffered a spinal cord injury as a result of a diving accident to the Sandy River. Bud realized that there's no accessible housing that helps accommodate newly injured quadriplegics to adjust to their injury and their transition to the disabled or their new disability. It's estimated that over 12,000 people in the Portland metro area, which does include Clark County and Vancouver, have a disability so severe that they require full-time permanent use of a wheelchair, hindering their options to live independently. Quad Inc. is dedicated to advancing the rights of the independence of severely disabled individuals so they could promote self-reliance and self-sufficiency on all aspects of daily living. It's also in demand that Vancouver, we build at least 2 more apartment complexes for the mental illness. Currently, we have 4 within the city limits, and they all have a wait list for over 1 year. Both my Proposition 1 projects would serve the most vulnerable, the physically disabled, and the mentally ill.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for coming and attending. We appreciate it. We'll start off with Position 2 next, and Justin, we'll have you lead us off. One moment while I read off this question to you. Studies have shown a desire for a variety of housing options available to consumers. Do you believe the city has systems in place to accommodate those varieties and preference? If there are roadblocks, what can be done to remove them?
Well, I do know that there is a lot of opportunity out there, as Vaughn Henderson was saying. There is a lot of ideas about shipping container communities. That's a really good idea. I'm in agreement with that. I'm also in agreement with the tiny homes. They're very popular. I've seen a lot of programs about those. And also, there's a lot of people that want to build tree homes. And these are kind of complex situations when it comes to code enforcement. I think that one of our biggest hurdles that we have in the community is code enforcement. If we can find a way to do these projects in a way where an engineer can sign off to their safety, or that they can be proven safe to be livable, then I think that these hurdles could be overcome.
Thank you very much, Justin. Alicia. Again, studies have shown a desire for a variety of housing options available to consumers. Do you believe the city has systems in place to accommodate those varieties and preference? If there are roadblocks, what can be done to remove them?
So the city's method in which to create variety in the housing market is around zoning. Whether we're going to zone to have an incredibly dense neighborhood or whether we're going to have large lots for larger homes. And there are individuals that have different preferences. Right now, part of the issue, as many of you know in this room, is that our inventory is so low in that entry-level first-time homeowners, or even like me, my husband and I bought our house 10 years ago, but the home prices are rising so quickly, we can't catch up with savings in order to upgrade to a bigger home. So what I believe what we need to do as a city is we need to look at our zoning requirements, we need to look at our density requirements, especially for developers and builders who want to do infill, row houses and other forms of housing that currently is almost impossible to build, and look at the 535 available buildable acres we have within our city limits that we can put to use to start building homes that are only in the middle to lower range. I think the upper range we are seeing in Richfield and other parts of our community, they're handling that really well. But we're definitely not building that entry-level home. So that's what I believe the city needs to focus on.
Thank you, Alicia. Actually, we'll have you go again for question 2, sorry. With increased demands on emergency services such as fire and police, can the city fund those vital parts of our community without negatively impacting the cost of housing? How?
And how? So if you look to the City Council and what we accomplished last year through a task force, we were able to find new revenue streams that didn't tackle and go into property taxes. Typically, property tax increases the cost of housing. We tried to spread it out amongst all users, so it didn't disproportionately put the burden on one sector, which typically is property tax. Obviously, we have a 1% cap in our state, so we're limited to what we can do. But I do believe that public safety is one of the #1 most important core services that a city can offer a community. People aren't going to move here. They're not going to buy homes in a neighborhood if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel like they can walk outside or their kids can play or their schools are safe. So I do believe that we have to invest in public safety. Your current city council member made those tough decisions. We have done it. I believe that the cost of housing is a more complex issue, and we did our best to try not to impact the cost of housing with those tax increases.
Thank you very much. Justin, again, the question is, with increased demands on emergency services such as fire and police, can the city fund those vital parts of our community without negatively impacting the cost of housing, and then how?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, I know a large portion of our budget already goes to fire and police, and so I think that we don't need to raise the amount of money that's going towards those services. I do think that we can raise it towards medical and fire, but for police, I think that we're doing pretty good as we are. You can see about 3 to 4 cops that are behind one guy on a average traffic stop, and we're locking up a lot of people for basically crimes that are victimless, and we're filling our jails, and it costs us a lot of money to house these people that are nonviolent criminals. So I would say we need to reform the way that our police are using their resources, and then I would be more in favor of giving them more funding. And I agree with Ms. Topper that a lot of it has to do with property taxes, and the standard of living is going down, but the cost of living is drastically going up, and I don't feel this is the time to be raising taxes on the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Scott, we will start off with you for position 1 for Vancouver City Council. The first question I'll have for you is what role does housing play in the economic development of the city of Vancouver? How would that impact your decision-making on the council?
Certainly housing is a crucial part of our community's economic balance and growth. The labor force needs to be housed. Being able to live closer to where you work means lower family costs, reduces your transportation, which is significant to most families' budgets. Families living within their means in convenient and accessible locations with the amenities that want and need the higher quality of life, which also means businesses will see a greater employee satisfaction and productivity. It's all interconnected. On council, I'll work to make decisions that take that interconnectedness into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nick, we'll have you go next. Again, the question is, what role does housing play in the economic development of the city of Vancouver? How would that impact your decision-making on the council?
Well, I think that housing plays a very substantial role in the economic development of the city of Vancouver, and a local economy cannot thrive to its fullest potential when affordable housing is out of reach to our neighbors. And it essentially is cyclical. It keeps people from being able to reach for becoming a homeowner, and as a city council member, my decisions would greatly be impacted by housing policies, that would help the most vulnerable and people who need that help to be able to become homeowners.
Thank you, Nicolette. Jacob, if you'd let us know your response, that'd be appreciated.
Yes. So pretty much without housing, you can't be a productive citizen per se. Obviously, if you don't live at home, you're not going to be able to hold a job for very long, be productive per se. So definitely housing is very, very important for the community. Basically, what I would do is I would work with the developers, people who develop the homes, build the homes, and say, hey, how do we develop more low and fixed income housing? Because there's a lot of people who are in that bracket who can't afford housing, their rent's going up, they're getting squeezed by inflation as well. So basically, that's working for developers to say, hey, how do we build more low-income housing that works for people so they can be more productive, be stakeholders in the community? So we need these people to be more stakeholders in the community so that we get more productivity, more growth, if they're consuming more goods as well. Because obviously, if half your money is going to rent, that's a lot of money that's not going to buy local goods. Obviously, if you don't have the money to buy local goods, you can't really contribute to local small businesses. It's like a downward spiral. So if we get the cost of rent down by building more low-income housing, working with property owners or property developers to build those units, that means in the long run more money in their pockets to spend on local businesses to help the local economy out. So that's how I would work with property developers to fix their problems.
Thank you very much, Jacob. David, we'll have you go next, and then I'll follow up right after that with question number 2 for you. Thank you.
Yeah, the economic impact of housing is, it's crucial. It's one of those things that if we have affordable housing for people to come to, then they have that money to spend, and that helps the economy in general. If you've got the current housing situation where people are spending more than what they consider the 30% rule, then all their money is going towards their housing, and people are maybe not even being able to afford the apartments they're in, and then that discourages businesses from opening up in the city, because if they see a city like San Francisco that is extremely expensive, they're going to look somewhere outside of that area. We don't want that to happen. Portland already is extremely expensive. We don't want to become the next Portland as far as unaffordable housing, because then our citizens generally cannot afford to live. They'll move out, and then we have a brain drain of the talented people that we need for future jobs, because the real key issue is jobs, and affordable housing is great if you're trying to get all the lower income people into the houses, but if you don't have the right higher income jobs and the businesses that provide those, then it doesn't matter what your housing cost is or what subsidies you do, then no one will have a house that's affordable. No one can afford to go and buy things, go out to eat, go to the theater, which is my preference. And then you just end up having a collapsing economy, and we don't want that. So as a city council person, I will do my best to improve job growth in small businesses to where they're livable wages and bring zoning rules into a better balance so that we can make smaller houses and more houses available to lower incomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With our second question, we'll do a kind of a repeat here, and that is, what would be your ideal project utilizing Proposition 1 funds?
My ideal project would be something obviously in the affordable housing range. That seems to be the real issue right now. But I'm curious about the waterfront project. I wasn't able to go to the Monday councilor meeting, but I'd like to see some part of the project, since there's quite a large amount of phases, be for affordable housing for seniors and maybe an assisted living connected with that. I'd like to see pretty much the equivalent of like Smith Tower, but down towards the waterfront, because I believe, just because you're a six-figure income doesn't mean you shouldn't have a really nice house. And if you've ever visited Smith Tower, they've got some really nice views of our city. And I think that's the same kind of thing that would be a nice mix, something to add to a waterfront project. So that would be something I would be in support of if I was on the council.
Thank you very much, David. Jacob, again, the question is, what would be your ideal project utilizing Proposition 1 funds?
So currently, 67% goes to 790 homes being preserved or built. 25% goes to 1,500 families that are on low income, and the rest goes to shelter, other implementation process, etc. So I keep the composition pretty much the same, but I'll be able to actually reduce 67% to 60%, use that extra money to build a better database so we could direct homeless people and other people to better services. In Houston, they reduced their unsheltered homeless population by 75% over 5 years, by building a better database. It's actually, if you're homeless, you go to the government, you say, hey, this is my situation, then they direct you to the appropriate services so you get the help you need, go off the streets, better opportunities. So that's what Houston did. So I copy a lot of that. And basically, I also take 2% of the funding to hire 2 employees that work with local investors, local developers, and basically would work with them to say, hey, this area, is this good for low-income housing? Many houses here. These 2 people would basically tell us as city council as well, what RCWs get in the way of us building low-income housing or dwellings or other units for these people that are suffering. So we hire 2 people, we outsource that to these 2 people so they can basically say, hey, here's the laws that are getting in the way of us helping people. This is what you need to do. And we would obviously vote to revoke a lot of the RCWs that are in the way of developing low-income housing. But I keep the current composition about the same with those adjustments.
Thank you very much. Nicolette, if you'd like to address the question.
My ideal project for the Prop 1 funding would be tiny homes, specifically the ones, or very similar to the ones that have been proposed by the Community Roots Collaborative. I really like the sense of community that they try to envelop by having a community center in the middle of the homes. That way people have a place to go to. If it is a lot specifically that's not in a place that is as easily accessible to other amenities in the city, or if it's not near a transit system. For plots of land that are near transit systems, I would suggest apartment or low-income housing that can house, as many people as we could, and utilizing the public transit system for those who do not have access to their own transportation, and being in a zoning area that is very close to businesses, people would be able to utilize the amenities of the city more easily.
Thank you very much. Scott Campbell.
Proposition 1 was presented to the voters as an affordable housing measure, a tax to create and support more affordable housing. I supported that, and while I think it's only a small part of what needs to be in a much larger and more complex solution, I believe the funds that will best be used going forward would be a long-term sustainable projects. Building units of affordable housing, providing incentives to create the affordable housing, and making more places where people can afford to house their families. But here's the reality. Some people are in jeopardy right now, and I support limited and carefully applied use of some of these funds to fund temporary assistance to people who are on the verge of being homeless, thus keeping them off the streets and keeping them in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Stephen, we'll start with you. And the first question we'll have for you is, what role does housing play in the economic development of the city of Vancouver? How would that impact your decision-making on the council?
Say that again.
Yeah.
hardly hearing you with that speaker there.
Well, what role does housing play? Let you read it.
What role does housing play in the economic development of Vancouver? It's a rather large one. Let's talk about healthy economy and house ownership. Economists will tell you it's 73% ownership. 73% ownership. We have 10% of our population's in poverty. Obviously, they're not owning any home. They're being subsidized. In fact, every plan we've heard here thus far is about subsidizing. We are going to continue to subsidize housing for people that are in housing without taxes paid on it. So they're getting the tax abatements. I see you laughing over there, but it's true, isn't it? It's true, tax abatements. What do we use those taxes for? Pay for the services you all want. You want services, do you not? So how's this impacting our economic development? The middle class is being squeezed for all that services. Now, our host here mentioned 9% increase in housing values. Columbia says it's 12%. And it continues to go up. And why is that? We have a shortage, supply and demand. Now, how do we improve that? We create more supply. How do we do that in Vancouver? Very difficult. Very difficult. So, as I mentioned earlier, Councillor Bolt, who's laughing over here and he knows very well, unless we build in the county, we won't have more inventory. We have to think beyond Vancouver to fix our problem. My time up? So our economic development goes back to jobs. It's all about jobs. That's what drives the economy. Jobs that people can buy houses with. Our oil terminal. Those are good paying jobs.
Thank you, Stephen. Greg, we'll have you go next.
All right, thank you. Housing impacts our economy more than any one single thing, I think. For every 100 homes we build, it creates 80 direct jobs in the building of those homes, 40 more jobs in associated industries that support the building of homes. So instead of looking at it as subsidizing income housing, subsidizing free housing for the poor, I'm suggesting maybe it's time to look at it as an investment in the community, an investment in creating jobs. We're going to have to start thinking about building up. We're running out of land, and supply and demand is going to continue to squeeze us. There's really no, economically, that's just, that's science talking. And unless we start thinking about building up and smaller with changing zoning and density requirements, then the housing crunch and crisis is just going to continue to cause a problem. I think Let's look at it as investment in housing, investment in jobs. If we start bringing in fossil fuels down through our new waterfront, then we're looking at, we're not backing up the investors who've put their faith and money in the new waterfront. The risk that presents, we're going to drive a real problem with commercial real estate if we're not careful. So, thank you.
Greg. And we'll have you address this question and then follow up with a second one right after that.
You bet, not a problem. Well, what a wonderful evening. And this is a great question because everything evolves around the house, around the home. Everything we do is around the home. So think of those businesses that are just coming up from Silicon Valley. The business just came in and leased the entire artillery barracks that we remodeled over here. They're looking for homes for 100 new employees. Those gentlemen and those women were going to be bringing their families, are going to find a home. So there's a little business right there. But then when they move into the home, they're going to need all of the accessories with that home. They're going to need the lawnmower because they're not mowing their lawn down there. They're going to be mowing grass up here. All of the beds, all of the kitchen, all of the bedroom, all of those build on our economic development. They're going to be out looking for all of the restaurants. They're going to be looking out for the schools. They're going to be looking out for the opportunities that they can entertain themselves, whether it's the theater or the Vancouver Symphony. All of those opportunities build our economic development. Those are also people that we want to live here on this side of the river so that they have more time. They're not spending their time commuting across. Those employers need employees that have a short commute. So they're spending more productivity, more time here working and spending their time with families. All of it is about the home. Everything we do is about having people in stable living conditions so that they can go to school, so they can be a part of this community, so that they can volunteer in our community, so they can strengthen our community on our boards and commissions and neighborhood associations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Question 2. Studies have shown a desire for a variety of housing options available to consumers. Do you believe the city has systems in place to accommodate those varieties in preference? If there are roadblocks, what can be done to remove them?
Certainly. So I prepared a piece of paper and I left it on the table in there because there were 5 questions and we knew we weren't going to be able to answer every single question. I thought it might give you an opportunity to see where I stand on those other questions. When you look down at some of the options, sure, we have studio 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments, no roadblocks. Duplexes, we have a little bit of a roadblock. So we can solve that. We're looking at duplexes. They're in the higher densities, but not the lower densities. Single and townhomes, no roadblocks. Tents and yurts, and those houses up in the trees. Those would fall all under those ADUs, accessory dwelling units. I have one of the first legal accessory dwelling unit in the city of Vancouver. We built it in 1990 while the city was building the code around it. We're evaluating the ADUs and we're talking to the county about ADUs. That's an opportunity for density. Mobile homes, manufactured home developments. We discussed this some time ago. There's an opportunity for us to bring back that discussion to see if it's something that we want to keep or we want to leave as is. But we also have a little piece called group living. Remember the old boarding houses? Those were opportunities that we had in the old days. We have very tight restrictions on them, where they can go, and that's an opportunity that we can bring it back and have that discussion. All of these have to match the Washington State Building Code, the International Building Code. We're looking at code compliance to make sure that they are safe and healthy, that we do have 2 exits. But it's a balancing act between the needs of the community and the needs of the neighborhoods. So we want to make sure that we're balancing all of those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ann. So again, the question is, studies have shown a desire for a variety of housing options available to consumers. Do you believe the city has systems in place to accommodate those varieties and preference? If there are roadblocks, what can be done to remove them?
Right. I don't think the city's doing enough right now. There's a lot of talk, a lot of committee meetings, a lot of let's talk more about this issue. We need to be moving forward with creating, again, as I mentioned, the density, the zoning laws, the changing the things. I know a couple guys who have told me they'd be happy with a little 150, 200 square foot living space. That they can't do that. That's not, again, the boarding house kind of analogy. It's not allowed under current law. We need to change things like that because there are people that just want a small living quarter. Mentioned the 100 employees coming in to the renovated barracks here with 100 employees looking for housing. Again, housing supply and demand, we're going to drive the prices up as we bring in better jobs. So we have to be really looking at all the different kinds of housing options that could be out there. That includes, micro units to, again, traditional homes on traditional lots.
Thank you very much.
Living wage jobs, really good paying jobs. What we're talking about here at Vancouver Barracks are really good paying jobs. If you think they're going to live in Vancouver, something's wrong. They're going to live in the county. They're going to buy the big houses. They're going to go to Camas. They're going to go to Ridgefield. That's the reality. They're making good money. They're not going to live in Vancouver. Okay? Human nature. What we need to do economically in Vancouver is build the affordable housing that everyone talks about, nobody's doing. The city loves taking on property. They buy it up and operate it at a loss. They have lots of property. They operate at a loss. Their idea is to build renter housing at around $250 a square foot. Housing can be built for 85 cents a square foot to rent. That's not what's happening. You see, they have these investment ideas, and anytime government touches something, sets up a contract, these joint group exercises with business, you tack on another 30% cost. How do I know this? I worked in government contracting. I know exactly how it works. 30 to 60% increase. Oh, and then the cost plus contract and so on. The entire economic system we have established here in Vancouver is inflated. They've inflated the median income. They tell you it's $73,300 for a four-family income. Yet, their forecast in 2015 was $51,000. How many of you got a 40% pay raise in 2 years? Anybody? You see where I'm going? I'll continue on the next.
Thank you, Stephen. So if everyone has their paddles, we'll start with the first question. That is, do you believe home ownership is still the American dream? Thank you very much. Next question, do you believe the city should implement a B&O tax? Creative response by Scott there. Third question, do you believe that emergency services like police and fire can be funded through existing funding streams? Thank you. Fourth question. Do you believe the city should pursue out-of-the-box housing solutions like tiny homes, cottage housing, and other high-density models? Okay. Thank you very much. To conclude, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to give us a closing statement. Maybe if there wasn't enough time to address a question and you want to elaborate further, feel free to do that. Again, this will just be a 30 to 60 second period of time, just like we did to start with. We will start with position 1. With that, I'll start with David. You get the honor to go first.
First of all, thank you for having me here. I'd just like to say that I may not have the experience of having worked on many nonprofits or worked on the city council or things like that, but as a citizen, I've been a business owner, and I understand the challenges that are required to be a business owner, and I've worked with many, many real estate brokers, and I understand the challenges of affordable housing. And I think that I can provide a perspective that's more the every man, every woman type perspective, a typical homeowner in the city of Vancouver. And I do believe that the city of Vancouver has lots of room for growth and bringing in new companies, and I want to encourage the companies like the Barracks Company and other small businesses to add employees with good paying jobs that can promote everyone into a much nicer city. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jacob will go next. Oh yeah, paddles are all yours.
So thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Definitely we need to increase the supply of housing. I like a lot of what people said today on the panel, a lot of great discussion. If I'm elected to represent a city council, I'll vote no on any B&O tax. I'll vote no on increasing the general license tax. And I'll vote no on the surcharge tax per employee. We need to make sure that small businesses, make sure that basically they're not burned by more taxes. Small businesses are the future of growth for our community. Living wage jobs, the long-term solution to these challenges, living wage jobs come from small businesses. It's very, very important that we help our small businesses thrive in our community. Now, if I'm elected, I will do everything I can to vote no on any tax increases on small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Nicolette.
Thanks again to CCAR for hosting tonight. The discussion we had was one that I'm really grateful to have been a part of. I believe that all voices in our community should have a place at the table looking at the issues our city faces. I'm running to be your city councilor because I believe in a Vancouver with an effective local government made up of men and women that represent all community stakeholders. I hope that I can earn your vote as a part of as an advocate for your voice as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolette. Scott Campbell.
Well, again, thank you all for being here on a beautiful evening. I'll leave you with this. A healthy, thriving community has a variety of different housing options. A city with diverse housing types is a more vibrant and active community. Let me say that again. A city with diverse housing types is a more vibrant and active city. And it is in our interest to work hard to make sure that happens. If you want to hear more about where I stand on all the issues, go to votescottcampbell.com. I'm asking for your vote, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Scott. Next, we'll go to position 2. We'll start off with Justin Foreman.
Thank you. I just want to tell everybody, I talked about how banks are illegally foreclosing on people, but I didn't explain how. Now, what banks are doing is while you own your home, they're selling your home about 30 to 50 times while you live in that. And when they do foreclose on you, oftentimes they don't own the deed anymore. So a lot of times the foreclosing is illegal. A lot of people don't know about that. So I, as city council, I would be pretty interested in investigating how often that happens in our community. Also, lowering taxes is very important. Since the Federal Reserve, not many people know the Federal Reserve is a private central bank. It's not part of our federal government. It was established in 1913, and since it was founded, the inflation of our money went up about 2,073%, and things that cost $20 now cost about $473. So we need to quit putting the burden on the people. We need to stand up for our rights. We need to take back our local government, and we need to look after each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Alicia Topper.
Thank you. And I just want to thank the Clark County Association of Realtors for your past support of my campaign and of my current city council term. I want to bring us back for my closing statements to the question, is homeownership still the American dream? And I want to get a little personal and say that my mom just came back from Oklahoma where she was working in the oil fields. And she was pretty accustomed to living in her tiny little cab of her truck, and that's where she slept, showered at public facilities. And my mom came back, and I thought, wow, you know, my mom's only 55, super young to be my mom, and she would really love to own a home. She's been saving money, and so I thought that night, you know, we were kind of like talking over a glass of wine. I said, well, let's pull up Zillow and take a look. My mom currently rents a room in Hammond, Oregon. So I pulled up Pacific County, Clark County, Cowlitz County. I wanted to look in Woodland, Richfield, Vancouver. And you know how many homes I found between $100,000 and $175,000? None. I found a couple mobile homes that I would not put my mom in. And I'll tell you, for my next term on city council, I will be committed to make sure that hardworking people like my mom can buy a house in our city. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Linda Glover.
Thank you, CCRA, and thank you, Ryan, for all your hard work. I've been in Vancouver since 1995. I've worked hard to keep make a business successful on Main Street. I've worked hard to make sure that downtown is revitalized and a vibrant place to be. I've worked hard in nonprofits across this community, making sure that quality of life is good for everyone. Our economy is built on the backs of small businesses, and 95% of those businesses have less than 5 people. There's no representation on city council for small business. I want to be that representation. I want to be that strong voice for small business on our city council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Vaughn Henderson.
All right. So I'm just going to make this pretty short. If you support housing for all, evidence-based drug policy, revamping our infrastructure and environmental sustainability, vote Vancouver for Vancouver, and go to vancouver.com for more info. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. We'll start off with Stephen Cox for mayoral.
Linda Glover's exactly right. Jobs make this economy run. More houses create more jobs. Less taxes. Small business owners, how many of you are small business owners? Your taxes just went up 20% for each employee. Did you know that? Yeah, each employee, up to 400 employees. Utility taxes, they're going up 3.7%. To 2020, they're going up even more. We continue to squeeze the very lifeblood out of this community, which is small business. It needs to stop. We can build affordable housing. We can keep taxes down. And we can make it work and better. We need the cooperation of the county.
Thank you, Stephen. Greg Henderson.
All right, I want to thank you for having us tonight and giving us an opportunity to share with you our thoughts and to hear what your thoughts are and your ideas. It comes down to jobs and affordable housing, a sustainable community that we can all be proud to live in and call home. I was asked, where do you think you have the business running for mayor? And I said, well, I coached Little League. And they said, well, what does that have to do with anything? And I learned in Little League, I had to deal with parents, I had to deal with the league, I had to deal with kids that wanted to play shortstop and not outfield. And one day I came in and I said, I'm going to put the 3 guys who haven't had a hit all year, and I'm going to put them in the front of the lineup. Those guys got hits. Each of the 3 guys got hits, and we won the game. I'm a small business owner, have been for 20 years plus with my wife in this community, and I love this city. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Greg. Ann McInerney-Ogle.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you so much for coming out this evening. It's been a wonderful opportunity to talk about all sorts of different kinds of housing. And as we look at that, we made that decision back in 2015 that we had an emergency declaration on housing. And we worked very hard with our realtor friends. Our realtors sat on the Affordable Housing Task Force. Realtors were part of that task force to help us make those decisions. I served as the chair for the Planning Commission for the City of Vancouver on the commission for 5 years as the chair for one, and again, realtors sat with us and helped us make decisions about this city. It's all about that decision-making process. What do we want for good neighborhoods? What do we want for good schools? What do we want it to look like? And I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in that decision-making process with you as your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. With that, we are done for the evening. We have literature for different candidates that's over here to the side. Please feel free to stay afterwards and speak with the different candidates. Also want to recognize Julie Olson, County Councilor, as well as Ty Stober, Vancouver City Council, for attending. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for coming and to the candidates for attending as well. We appreciate it and look forward to another great event next year as well.